Hey, what is going on, everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and this is going to be a little more of a casual video, I suppose. Something I haven't really done in this regard about this topic before, and I actually had a whole different other topic and everything in video planned. It's still going to come out, don't worry, but not only I kind of had a spur of the moment, I suppose, where I saw something that kind of led to wanting to make this, but I also felt like this would be more important to drop sooner rather than later. Now, this is more in regards to, I guess, just anybody who is not only creating content on here, but also maybe even people who are just interested in this or you're thinking of creating content, so you might want to pay a little bit of attention here. I also just want to say I'm not an expert in this by any means, but this is kind of just some more observations just in regards to this, and hopefully I can share my story that didn't happen here, thankfully. Now, for anybody who might or might not know, I guess you might really have to go out of your way to not know about this. Stolen channels on YouTube are a little bit of a big deal. I'm sure you've probably seen them recommended, or you've had even some channels that you've subscribed to all of a sudden change to something like Binance or Tesla and start doing all these live streams. And it's typically cryptocurrency related things in which it looks like this channel is completely reskinned. They are posing as some other entity or some other person, and they're typically doing some kind of giveaway in which you're going to donate cryptocurrency of some kind to this and get something in return there. Unfortunately, a lot of times what happens with these as well too is these channels end up getting terminated because, I mean, they're just spamming out all of this really malicious content. So then it ends up being a whole process for that content creator to get their original channel unterminated, to get it back. And I mean, I just feel for that. However, when it comes down to this here, I was on Twitter and I saw another YouTuber, Thaf9, or I guess T9 as they go by on here, end up saying this: seeing a lot of YouTubers getting hacked and then they don't explain what they did that might have caused their channel to be hacked in the first place, like click a link or accidentally run a sus file. Would be nice to know so it doesn't happen in the future. It's the equivalent of Googling a tech issue, finding a thread online of someone with the same issue, and instead of posting a fix, they're like, never mind, I fixed it myself, or DM'd the fix. This information would be really useful, you know. And I agree, and that's where the topic of this video is coming in. I'm gonna somehow include this in here, I guess, but when it comes to a NordVPN sponsorship phish that I almost fell for, and I'm going to show you how easy it can be to fall for something like this. So let's go ahead and just line this up here. First of all, let's say you are a YouTuber, you're looking for some kind of sponsorship. Either you're actively looking, or you might have a business email set up on your channel in which people who are wanting to conduct business in some way can contact you in regards to this. Now, I kind of joke and I say that I don't do YouTube the proper way, and by that I mean, first of all, I don't do YouTube full time. This to me is a hobby I enjoy doing. Do I get paid for it? Yeah, so I more consider it a paid hobby when it comes down to this. However, this is not what I rely on full time, although what I do get from here is helpful. Due to that, I really don't get sponsorships on here, partially because there's just things that I end up getting that I either don't trust, or I don't like them, or I look at it and I'm like, wait, you want my subscribers to want to pay how much for this? After the discount? I wouldn't pay for that. If I'm not going to pay that much for this thing, how am I going to sell it to people on here? And I'm not pandering. I'm really not. It's just that's how I feel about it, and that's how I approach this. I have been sponsored before. Hold on. Let me look this up. It looks like almost 3 years ago, I ended up taking a sponsorship for a OpenXenium mod chip install, and that wasn't even like a big company or anything. It was quite literally a friend of mine ended up sending over a couple mod chips for me to work on, and also said, hey, I'll pay you some money here if you end up making a cool video about this. So I decided to do that, and I didn't even charge that much for this just because it was a friend. He kind of just wanted to pay for a really awesome tutorial on here, so to speak. So, but then, got freely released on here. Either way, you can see, since I haven't really taken any sponsorships since then, obviously I'm a real professional at just fielding all that cash. I have done product reviews, mind you, where I end up getting, sent a product. This isn't an example of it, but a product that I end up getting sent, and then I review it, and, I get sent it for free, and then I just have to do, an unbiased review on here. But that's not a sponsorship, but I've done a few reviews like that. Either way, setting the stage here, there's many YouTubers, if they don't do this full time, still getting that extra income does help out. And aside from AdSense, or I guess any other merch sales in regards to this, one thing that does help quite a bit is sponsorships. Now, you can get those sponsorship offers through emails, and this is where you have to be a little bit careful. A lot of times, you're probably going to get sponsorship offers from companies you've never heard of. However, I end up getting a sponsorship offer from NordVPN. Spoiler alert, it wasn't the real one here, but I'm just going to show you how easy it can be to really fall for this here. This is the email that I ended up getting here, and I'm just, we'll just break this down. The to section, it's from PR Manager NordVPN. It's from ad@nordvpn-business.com. It states here the subject being NordVPN YouTube sponsorship inquiry, and just reading this off. Hello, my name is Jacob, and I'm an agent for NordVPN. At NordVPN, we have one goal, and that is to make the internet a more secure and private place. We search for social media influencers who can help to promote our service. Hours service, actually. Okay, interesting. We would like to find out if you would be interested in promoting NordVPN on your YouTube channel. This feature would be a short clip, approximately 15 to 20 seconds long, that showcases the features of our VPN. I will also ask you to answer a few questions. Do you have any other social media platforms besides YouTube? How much does 1 minute of video on your channel cost? Could you tell us about your previous promotional campaigns? Who have you worked with, and were they successful? If you are interested, please let us know as soon as possible. Best regards, Jacob. Copyrights 2022 Nord Security, all rights reserved. Now, some people might be poking at a few things there, and for the most part, I will say, although this is not perfect, this is a near bulletproof email just from a glance in regards to this. Like, looking at this here, you can see, okay, if you don't look up the website nordvpnbusiness.com, it seems like that can definitely be, a giveaway to some, but also it seems like it could be maybe just a side website for this here. Aside from like one issue when they said to promote our service, which is honestly just like an issue really anybody typing out an email can make, doesn't seem to be anything in regards to this. Like, for the most part, aside from that, the English on here is pretty good. Like, that's one thing to look out for when it comes to this, like looking for broken language, bad English, whatever it might be. And that's not even really to call out anything, but it's kind of one of those things that you can't just go on that anymore. Typically, if you're looking for spam emails, phishing emails, you're going to see the language there is going to be very broken, and that's not really the case here at this point. Like, just saying our service, that's just an honest mistake that really anyone can slip up with. I know I've probably flubbed at least a couple times in this video so far. However, with that email seeming to be okay for the most part, I didn't immediately reach out. Now, I will say, if this had come through, I probably would have taken it, especially because it did come in December, which for anybody who does not know, I mean, December, big holiday season. All the holidays are happening at that point. Very lucrative on YouTube as well, too, just because there's a bunch of ad rates that are higher. And on top of that, there's also going to be more advertisements when it comes to, well, not only AdSense, but also just sponsorships like this, because there's other companies who are really wanting to push out those sponsorships so people can maybe, give out a gift like this. If it's nothing tangible, it could be, a VPN subscription such as this. Now, I myself, I've actually used NordVPN in the past. I've had a 3-year subscription. I used it the entire 3 years, and I really didn't have any issues with it. I've even recommended it multiple times to people, not affiliated, not, I'm not sponsored here, but it's a service that I've used and I've enjoyed. And trust me, there's been other VPN services who have reached out, and I've reached back out to them and said, screw you, your service is terrible. I was a paying customer for your VPN and I thought it was awful. Don't contact me again. So even when it came to this email, I actually didn't respond to it immediately. I know many people might, especially if you're really wanting that extra cash, but at the time, just for whatever reason, I didn't respond to it. I just didn't have the time, or I just didn't feel like it at that moment. So I put something on my calendar. I said I'm going to respond to it later. What ended up happening was later came a few days later on, and I went in and I replied to the email, and I, sent a good amount of detail on there. It was really well written up, just said whatever I said on there. And I was about to hit the send button, and then I said, let me be a little... I'm going to poke at this a bit. Let's just see. So what I did was I really looked at that email address where it was from, and I was like, there's something that's just not sitting right with me here. I'm not sure what it is. So what I decided to do was I decided to do an ICANN lookup. Now, really, ICANN just shows you what the registrar information is going to be that is publicly available for really any domain that's been registered out there. For the most part, I'm sure you're going to find some that aren't available, but in this case, yes, we can find these. So simply, all I did here was I plugged in nordvpn.com, and I ended up getting some domain information that looked like this. And don't worry, I don't really mind sharing this here just because this is completely public right here. This is what NordVPN chooses to share out there. And even just looking at this, we can see that the name servers are registered to cloudflare.com, so everything looks good at this point. Now what I did was I looked up nord-business.com on here, and I saw that the domain information was quite different, and I thought, that is super strange. Why would it be so different? I mean, you don't really have to know too much about registration just to look at this and be like, this doesn't look right. Why is one of them registered to Cloudflare and one of them is registered to Begit when they both should be from the same service, you would think? I also just did the most basic thing possible at this point and went to nordvpn-business.com, and I saw that not only this page is not secure, but there's nothing set up here. Not even a redirect to the NordVPN site, which is like, hey, if you're going to pick other domains, if you're going to pick up other domains for your company and you're not going to put anything on there, especially for someone like NordVPN, you could at minimum just make it redirect to the nordvpn.com site. That kind of just seems a bit basic here. But as you can see, this is just someone who really didn't set up anything in regards to this, at least public facing, that's going to be usable. So this stuck out to me as well too, clearly. So funny enough, get this, I actually went as far as to go to the actual nordvpn.com site, scrolled all the way down to contact us, and I contacted them, and I just pretty much said, hey, I just want to double check. I got this email. Is this from you all? Like, are y'all seriously hitting me up here? Just let me know. And thankfully, their support was fantastic, and they got back to me on here. They did get back to me and said directly here, please note that our team sends emails from support@nordvpn.com, support@nordaccount.com, and info@nordvpnmedia.com. And similar, thus, if you received any emails from sketchy email addresses, we highly suggest not clicking on them as they may be a phishing attempt. They then also asked me to please report those emails if I got any that are not from those addresses there, and they also asked if I could send a screenshot over of what I got, which I was gladly and happily able to do so. So you do notice right there that all three of those websites, nordvpn.com, nordaccount.com, and nordvpnmedia.com, yeah, they are definitely not nordvpn-business.com. Even looking at this here, checking out nordaccount.com, it redirects you to my.nordaccount.com, and it just looks like this is an option to log into a overall Nord account, so you can access NordVPN, NordPass, and NordLocker. And NordVPNmedia.com, check it out. If you end up hitting that site, well, it just takes you to the standard NordVPN.com site. So that's what I would have expected. I would have expected something like this. On top of that, you can also check the ICANN registration for any of those domains, and they seem to look pretty similar in all regards there, and they're all registered to Cloudflare, so it looks like those would all be affiliated with one another, and those ones don't raise any red flags for me. And funny enough, if you want to take this one step further, just in case you want to see some extra trickery on here, well, when this was all going on after this happened, I actually sent this over to one of my best friends, Pathogen-David. We were just kind of talking about this here, and he even backed me up and was just like, yeah, it's a good thing that you reached out and you caught that, because that's a pretty good looking convincing email right there. However, he ended up just doing a NS lookup on here, and really this is something that anyone, more specifically here on Windows, it's not like this is only limited to Windows, but if you have a Windows computer, which I'm sure most people watching do, you can open up command prompt and you could just do a NS lookup, and here you can query the MX records on a website if you wish to. So this is an example of what was being run here. To break this down here, you would do an NS lookup, you would then tell it to query MX here, which that is for mail exchange. You then plug in the domain, and at that point you can optionally set a DNS server to also query. Here we're actually just using Cloudflare's, but if you don't put one, it's just going to put your own DNS server that you're using on your network. Point is, once you plug this in right here, you can see several mail exchanger servers for NordVPN.com, and this looks to be pretty reputable for the most part. But if you plug this in for NordVPNBusiness.com, check this out. You have one, and it is to emx.mail.ru. Now, last I checked, NordVPN is not based out of Russia, so this should not have a Russian mail exchanger. Now, the reason why I've shown some of the examples, some of the explanations on here, some of the tools that are used, which are freely available, easy to use. You do not need to be a technical person to work around these. These are free websites and applications that you already have available at your fingertips here. This is just so if you are interested in any of this, or if something like this happens to you and you're a little bit, worried about this, you can try this as well. This is all available. So really coming down here to the end, what do I recommend if you're hit with something like this and you just want to make sure you are cautious with this? Well, first of all, of course, make sure you read over the email. Does anything kind of stick out to you? If it doesn't stick out to you, look at where it's from. Does that email address look proper? Keep in mind, emails can be spoofed, mind you, so I understand that can also happen, but let's take into account here, maybe in this example, there's not going to be any email spoofing, domain spoofing that's going on. And there are ways that you can, I guess, make it look like it's coming from another email, even though it's not going to be spoofed. There's going to be little tricks that people can play in regards to this here. So you just want to really look over the email, and you can just look over this with a fine-tooth comb for the most part. If you do have any doubts about this, keep in mind here that it's healthy to have a little bit of skepticism and even some light paranoia when it comes to something like this. You really don't want your channel hijacked. You don't want to deal with anything here, just especially when you're dealing with a sponsorship opportunity. You want to use this here, you don't want to use this. Just like you use this here a bit. This here, your brain, your intuition, what's going on, the common sense, that is the best antivirus that can help you out. You want to fine tune that thing. Next, if it is from a company like this that is known, that does have some type of presence, there's nothing wrong with reaching out to the company directly. Like, open up your own browser. Don't click any links on there. Open up your own browser. Go to the actual website. Reach out to them on the website and just ask, hey, is this legitimate? Is this an offer from you all? Can you please confirm this if you are doubting this in any sort of way? I mean, I didn't even go into this, but you can even just look at the email properties itself on whatever email tool that you're using and look at the internet headers right there if you want to. And here we can actually clearly see like the sender IP on this. This is from NordVPNBusiness.com. And here we go. The header is from mail.ru. Again, if you know where the company is from, this doesn't make any sense here. It doesn't make sense that it would be from mail.ru. Keep in mind, this isn't an end-all be-all list of tips that are out there, nor is this, completely bulletproof in regards to this here. Like, for example, the reason why I was even wondering about this extra website here is because I was thinking maybe there is a separate PR firm or agency that is reaching out on behalf of NordVPN that does this. That is where I said, hey, maybe all the data and the analytics here is not going to match. Like, that is possible. But you might want to reach out to the actual parent company if you can and see if they can give you some reassurance in regards to this and kind of squash this here. If you get any emails like this and you also do find out that they are phishing attempts, whatever email service you're using, just seriously use whatever option is available there. Typically it's like a right click of some kind to report that as a phishing email to the actual email provider. Those do help out. Lastly, before we wrap this up here, some people might be wondering, okay, well, what would have happened, or how would this have happened here, or what would have gone on? Well, again, big shout out to my friend Pathogen-David for this, but he said, in an alternative universe where I fell for the fish, this is what you would be looking at. But no, seriously, realistically, what I am expecting here, what would have happened is if I end up emailing this person, sending it through there, they probably would have sent over some terms for me to check out, said this is how much we're going to pay you, and as a part of this, we do want you to actually utilize the service and try this out. At that point, they probably would have directed me to a download, if not immediately, then, after a few emails to build some trust, they probably would have directed me to a download of an executable that would be for NordVPN, and probably given me some credentials to actually utilize the service. That makes sense. If I'm going to be taking a sponsorship, I should use the service. I should give it a shot. That's what should happen. So that's what would probably happen on there. What I would anticipate is they would probably send over a hacked or modified client of the NordVPN executable for me to use, and it wouldn't even surprise me if they gave me credentials that ended up working. So if I wasn't technical at all, I would probably install that, use it, plug in my credentials, or maybe there's not even any credentials that I have to enter. Maybe it's just baked into the executable, and I could use my VPN on there, which is even worse because, well, God forbid, since it's hacked at that point, well, you know, they could just be they could just be capturing all of my network data from my computer. However, typically what happens there, to my understanding, is really once you run that malicious executable on your computer, it really just goes through and looks for all the common places where there might be session data, there might be cookies available, active session data that can be sent out and back over to the mothership here. Even, of course, you know, any common places on your computer where passwords would be. And that's why at that point, it's not just passwords, but really that session data, like that active session data, the session cookies and everything for any type of logins, whether it's, you know, really just stuff from your browser, but it could be Discord, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Google here in this case. That is when they are able to take that session data, use it on their own computers, and essentially then just end up getting into my accounts there directly. And that's how a lot of that two-factor authentication can be bypassed. Like, yeah, you might have an authenticator set up on your phone and everything here. However, your home computer, the one that you actually trust that has, you know, logged into this same account thousands of times, it's probably going to be much better trusted on here compared to a completely fresh new login from somewhere else, literally in Russia in this instance. If they're able to take your active session data and utilize that to get into your account, it makes it a lot easier. And from that point on, they're able to change your password, change the email, change backup options on there, change everything. And that's when you see these channels end up getting all their content removed. Everything gets wiped on there when it comes to any type of channel art, and it gets replaced with Tesla or Elon Musk or Binance or anything in regards to that. That's how that ends up happening. Either way, this video went on a lot longer than I expected, but this is also just something that to me is interesting and fun to talk about as well too, but also just a warning and an informational type thing to you all. Whether you are interested in like making content, or you just watch content, or you're even making content like right now actively on the platform, this is just some stuff to look out for. Really just keep in mind some of the basics there. Hey, don't send out your passwords, don't run, you know, weird looking executables and things that might be suspicious, and just, you know, take some common sense into account on there. However, you can see some of this stuff is pretty easy to fall for, unfortunately. Either way, that's about it for this video. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. This is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, a like would absolutely be appreciated. If you didn't like it, a dislike is fine as well too.
I don't know how I get stoned.